This story is so heartbreaking. I'm so sad about this. I've been talking about this to my husband for the past 2 days. This just hits really close to home because I have an 8-month-old. As a mom, it's so hard to comprehend how another mother could do something like this to their children. And I want to talk about this because there's a lot of people that are sympathizing with this woman who took the lives of her kids. I'm really curious what your guys' opinions are about this situation, but just prepare yourselves for this because this is so incredibly devastating. I just want to say before I even begin, I cannot imagine what the father of these kids is currently going through. This video is about Lindsay Clancy, who was a mother of 3 children. She was married to her husband. She was a nurse. And, when you go and you look at these photos, they looked like such a normal, happy family. Like there's all these pictures of her with her kids and they're smiling and they all look like just normal people who would never do something like this to their kids. And I'm sure that their father probably thought nothing like this would happen. And I'm sure that everybody else involved in this family and friends of this family probably thought the same thing. So Lindsay Clancy is 32 and she was on leave as a labor and delivery nurse at Massachusetts General Hospital. And at the time she was attending a very intensive 5-day-a-week program for postpartum depression, trying to get help. Now here's the situation. Here's what happened. Patrick was working from home, but on this day, it was a Tuesday, he went to go get takeout. He was gone no longer than 25 minutes. And what he came home to is the most horrific thing that a parent could ever walk into the door to. He found his 5-year-old daughter, Cora, strangled, his 3-year-old son, Dawson, strangled, and his 8-month-old baby. The person who strangled them was their own mother. It was Lindsay. And after she did this, she jumped out of a window. Obviously wasn't in her right mind, because you would know that if you're in like a 2-story house, it's not gonna, you're not gonna take your own life if you jump out of a window. I mean, you'd have to hit something a specific way. You're most likely gonna get some broken bones, but you probably will survive it. Unfortunately, the daughter that was 5 and the son that was 3, they both passed away. When I was originally going to cover this story, the baby was still alive in the hospital, but unfortunately, he did pass away. And the mom is in the hospital as well. She's currently being guarded by police. Lindsay faces 2 counts of murder, 3 counts of strangulation or suffocation, and 3 counts of assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. Now, her charges include a deadly weapon, but the things that we've seen online is that her children were strangled and that she jumped out of a window. We have yet to get more information on what this weapon was, but I think in order for her to be charged with it, it means that she had to have used it on one of the children. This post on Reddit says that it's internet gossip, but that they've seen several people say that she's paralyzed and that she slit her throat and wrist before jumping, and it seems like she's expected to survive. This is not factual. I do not want to claim that this actually happened. I have no idea the condition of Lindsay at this time, but I'm assuming that we will eventually get updates. Now, I'm seeing on Reddit that it's alleged that she was in this inpatient treatment for postpartum psychosis, and upon her discharge, the family was told to not leave her alone with the kids, and people are speculating as to the reason why she was even released, if that was what her diagnosis was. Now, she had also made a Facebook post where she opened up about her struggles with postpartum depression. 6 weeks or so after she had her son, she was talking about how she felt like she was dialed in and she was doing nutrition, exercise, and things like that. Not only did she have 3 children, but she was a labor and delivery nurse. I feel like in order to have a job where you're delivering other people's babies, you have to like babies. To have that as a career and something you spend your day-to-day life doing, you have to be somebody that likes children. Now, at the time of this incident, her husband, Patrick, had actually stopped going to work and started working from home because her PPD was so bad. She was going to get help for her postpartum depression. Shows that she was actively doing something to try and fix whatever it is that she was struggling with. Now, like I said, I had my first baby 8 months ago. I am very fortunate that I did not suffer from postpartum depression, and I've known people that have, and I've also heard how severe it can get. I've heard the types of thoughts that it can make you have, and it's not something that I understand. So I'm not going to speak as if I understand what that's like, because I don't. If she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, the symptoms of that include include hallucinations, delusions, a manic mood, a low mood, sometimes a mixture of both manic mood and a low mood, loss of inhibitions, feeling suspicious or fearful, restlessness, feeling very confused, or behaving in a way that's out of character. Postpartum psychosis is a serious mental illness that should be treated as a medical emergency, and that it can get worse rapidly, and the illness can risk the safety of the mother and the baby. They don't know what causes postpartum psychosis, but you're more at risk if you have a diagnosis of bipolar disorder or schizophrenia, have a family history of mental health illness, particularly postpartum psychosis, even if you have no history of mental illness, or developed postpartum psychosis after a previous pregnancy. ClevelandClinic.org says that postpartum psychosis is a very rare condition, and experts estimate that it affects between 0.089 and 2.6 out of every 1,000 births. In the United States, that means it happens in between 320 and 9,400 births each year. Globally, that means it happens between 12 million and 352.3 million births. Of women who develop postpartum psychosis, research has suggested that there is approximately a 5% suicide rate and a 4% infanticide rate with the illness. This is because the woman experiencing psychosis is experiencing a break from reality. In her psychotic state, the delusions and beliefs make sense to her, feel very real to her, and are often religious. Immediate treatment for a woman going through psychosis is imperative. After I had my son, there is this huge hormonal shift. Like, if you don't have children, you may not know this, but while I was pregnant, all of my anxiety was gone. Prior to being pregnant, I've been anxious my whole life, but for some reason, 9 months of being pregnant, it was like my anxiety did not exist. It's like it wasn't there. After I gave birth, all of a sudden, all my anxiety was back. My baby was in the NICU for 6 days, which made it 1,000 times worse, and it was extremely traumatic. So when I came home, I had a lot of anxiety, and I was really trying to sort through, is this postpartum anxiety or is this normal anxiety? The point that I'm trying to make is that your hormones, like the shift is insane, and you're going through so many emotions after you give birth, even if you don't have postpartum depression. But people who do get it, some of them hallucinate and they have thoughts of hurting themselves or hurting their children. I saw a lot of people on Twitter who were offering support to this mom because they've had certain thoughts that they felt weren't under their control because of postpartum depression. This post says, "This is terrifying. I sympathize with any mother that experiences these symptoms. I could not imagine." Lindsay Clancy needs mental health treatment, not prison. We need to do better. The system failed her and those beautiful babies. She was getting help, and this still happened. Postpartum is real. We need access to mental health treatment without judgments. It's so deeply upsetting to see people calling Lindsay Clancy a monster when she was exhausting all of the resources she could possibly get, and the system still failed her and her family. I hope Lindsay has the strongest support system. On Reddit, this poster said, "Before all the disgustingly uneducated commenters flock here, she was struggling with chronic postpartum depression, which had escalated into psychosis. She was receiving treatment. This is a horrible tragedy caused in part by systematically subpar attention to the mental health crisis plaguing this nation. No, she was not evil. No, she was not a disgusting, vile human being. Psychosis leads to breaks from reality where rationality and logic do not exist. Before passing judgment, educate yourselves on these conditions." My personal opinion on it is that she shouldn't have been back with the children under any circumstances. She shouldn't have been there. If she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis, she should never have been alone with them. But also, you don't want to put that on her husband, because imagine what he's going through. Like, he just lost 3 of his children, and the source of that loss is his wife, who's in the hospital because she also tried to take her life. Like, he just lost everything because of one person. I think it's just a failure on the system, because if she was diagnosed with it, why was she ever allowed to go back to her kids? I obviously feel for women who give birth to their children and are struggling with things like that and aren't right mentally. From hearing what other people say, I know that it has to be horrific, and it's something that isn't very understood by a lot of people. But also at the same time, there are 3 children that are dead. And for me, the way that I am is like, I always put children first. It's really hard for me to just sympathize with her because, you know, she gave birth to these children and killed them. They're no longer here because of her, because of their mom, somebody that was supposed to protect them and keep them safe. This is by no means me saying that I don't feel sympathy towards her and what she's struggling with, because I absolutely do. I feel like in situations like this where somebody is struggling with postpartum psychosis or postpartum depression and something terrible comes out of it like this, I think that you can feel bad for what happened to the children at the same time as feeling bad was going through postpartum psychosis. It's not like she was somebody who had this in her to do this from the very beginning or did this while she was in her right mind. I truly believe that there needs to be more studies done on postpartum depression, anxiety, and psychosis, and I feel like there needs to be more of an understanding towards it. I feel like the system failed this family by sending Lindsay back home with her children. I think that she never should have been in the house with kids if she was diagnosed with postpartum psychosis. I've seen people on the internet blaming the father because if he knew that she had postpartum psychosis, why would he ever have left her alone with her kids? I feel like the blame needs to be put on the system for sending her home with that diagnosis, knowing that there were 3 children there. I don't know if she was sent home because there was no beds, if it was an insurance issue. I don't know why she wasn't properly taken care of in this situation, but either way, it's just a huge failure on the system's part. This is such a heartbreaking story, and as you guys know, like, I'm extremely passionate about the well-being of kids, and I just feel like something else should have been done about this, and I feel like it could have been prevented. I feel like until there's more of an understanding to postpartum depression, that things like this are just going to continue to happen. It's upsetting that she was going to get help. It obviously didn't help. And I know that her husband has to be feeling extreme guilt for leaving, going to get food that he probably regrets ever getting. It's one of those situations where you wish you could rewind time and can't. Her husband, Patrick Clancy, has made a post asking for people to forgive his wife for what she did. I'm going to read Patrick's entire post for you guys, and it is extremely lengthy, but I feel like it's really important that we hear what the father has to say about what happened to his family. Thank you all for your love and support. The warmth I've received from the community is palpable, and your generosity gives me hope that I can focus on some sort of healing. I've seen all of your messages and contributions, including some from people I haven't seen in over a decade, and many I've never met. I see and appreciate every one of you. A lot of people have said they can't imagine, and they're right. There's absolutely nothing that can prepare you. The shock and pain is excruciating and relentless. I'm constantly reminded of them, and with the little sleep I get, I dream about them on repeat. Any parent knows it's impossible to understand how much you will love your kids until you have them. The same goes for understanding the devastation of losing them. Cora, Dawson, and Kaylin were the essence of my life, and I'm completely lost without them. My family was the best thing that ever happened to me. I took so much pride in being Lindsay's husband and a dad to Cora, Dawson, and Kaylin. I always reminded myself that each day with them was a new gift. Kaylin usually woke up first and would rest his head on my shoulder for a few minutes as he adjusted to morning. Dawson typically sang or spoke his thoughts out loud for a while before we'd go get him. Cora was a big girl and would simply walk downstairs. I can still vividly picture her coming into the living room each morning with her hair in a mess, smile on her face. We always started our days together, reading books, cuddling up on the couch, and playing with magnet tiles. I loved taking them places, whether it was scooting at Chandler Elementary, vacation, skiing, out on the boat, or to Duxbury Beach, one of our favorite places on earth. They gave me purpose, and I never took it for granted. There is now a massive void where that purpose once was. Cora had an infectious laugh and was stunningly beautiful. She was the cautious one, but it was really because she was so caring. She used to say she wanted to be a doctor and a mama when she grew up, and she would practice by giving Kaylin checkups. If she was leaving the house to go somewhere, she would pick someone to take care of Caroline or Charlotte, her baby dolls. She had all the doll accessories available, so her sisters were well equipped. Before she turned 2, she was already gift wrapping them in perfect swaddles. We would tell her she's such a good little mama. She loved all babies, both real and pretend. She loved sloths, unicorns, tea parties, going to lunch with Nana and Grandpa, and giving presents to people. She knew everything about princesses, her favorite being Sophia the First. She truly loved her brothers and us and said it often in her sweet voice. We did a lot of father-daughter activities together, like skiing and visiting San Francisco or just talking. I loved her, my firstborn, so much. Dawson had beautiful, bold, brown eyes that beamed with friendship. He was naturally humorous and generous beyond the norm of a typical toddler, always willing to share his toys with others. For all the love he received, he always gave back more. His best quality was his pure kindness. He loved trucks, tractors, dinosaurs, Paw Patrol, worker guys, and being outside. He was adventurous and mischievous and enjoyed causing trouble, which he typically found hilarious. He was also remarkably smart. We always said if we didn't save enough for retirement, it'll be okay. We'll just live in Dawson's guest house. He would hug me tighter than most adults, and every night he told me in consistent words at bedtime, without fail, "Good night, Dada, I love you." We had a special bond from day one. He was my buddy, my first boy, and truly a gift. Kaylin was our easygoing child. I always said it was because he was the third child. He had to adapt, and he did easily. He was born with hardly any fuss and was by far our best sleeper. He was just an incredibly happy and vibrant baby, constantly smiling. Our nickname for him was Happy Kaylin. He was sitting on his own, and you could tell he was enjoying his growing independence as he would grab any object within reach. Sometimes he joined my Microsoft calls in the background, playing in his jumpy. I would keep my camera on, too proud to leave it off. He started saying Dada whenever I walked in the room. The last moment we had together was our routine. I would come up from my office at the end of the day and swing him between my legs while he laughed and smiled. If I was ever having a bad day, Kaylin always knew how to heal me. Perhaps that's why he held on a little longer, to spare me whatever pain he could. As excruciating as it was, I was fortunate and grateful to feel his warmth in his very last moment. Faith is my only hope of believing he felt mine. Kaylin died with enamorous courage despite being so little. Maybe it was his way of demonstrating what I need to do to press forward. I'll always try to draw inspiration from him. He'll always be my little hero. I want to share some thoughts about Lindsay. She's recently been portrayed largely by people who have never met her and never knew who the real Lindsay was. Our marriage was wonderful and diametrically grew stronger as her condition rapidly worsened. Took as much pride in being her husband as I did in being a father, and felt persistently lucky to have her in my life. I still remember the very moment I first laid eyes on her and can recall how overcome I was with the kind of love at first sight you only see in movies. It really didn't take long before I was certain I wanted to marry her. We said I love you to each other multiple times daily as if it were a reflex. We habitually started every morning with a passionate hug, yielding a sigh of relief like we had each received the perfect medicine. If too much time passed without a hug, she'd look at me and ask, "Did you forget?" We mutually understood the reality that people can have bad days, but we stuck to the rule that when one of us got lost, the other was always there to bring them home, always. She loved being a nurse, but nothing matched her intense love for our kids and dedication to being a mother. It was all she ever wanted. Her passion taught me how to be a better father. I want to ask all of you that you find it deep within yourselves to forgive Lindsay as I have. The real Lindsay was generously loving and caring towards everyone, me, our kids, family, friends, and her patients. The very fibers of her soul are loving. All I wish for her now is that she can somehow find peace. I promise I'll put all my energy into healing and rediscovering my purpose. I owe that to all of you, Duxbury Fire and Police, our compassionate healthcare workers, our local faith leaders, the Microsoft community, and especially Cora, Dawson, and Kaylin. I don't know how or when I'll be able to do it, but your love and generosity will help me get started. I know that love always wins. Cora, Dawson, and Kaylin, you gave me so much in your short time here. I don't know if the pain will ever go away, but I'll do my best to carry on in your honor. Dada loves you so much and will always remember you. With love and endless gratitude. I'm going to link below the GoFundMe page for Patrick Clancy if you guys would like to donate to help support him during this extremely difficult time. I will link the GoFundMe down below. Please consider donating to help support Patrick. I send my sympathy to him and to the rest of the family for this loss. I'm really curious to see what else unfolds with this. You guys are going to have to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you guys would like to watch any of my other content, definitely consider becoming a member where I post extra videos. Also have another channel. Definitely check that out as well. But either way, I appreciate you guys being a subscriber, and I will be seeing you guys soon for another video.